What's up, everyone? DREAGEN back again with another edition of the KAIJU Cataclysm. Today we're going to be talking about another San Diego Comic-Con 2019 update. This one, the announcement that Warner Brothers and Legendary will be presenting a 1-hour panel on July 19th at 1 p.m. for Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, originally Warner Brothers announced they would not be presenting anything at this year's San Diego Comic-Con, which included all their properties, their DC properties and whatnot. I know a lot of people bummed because they were one of several kind of key players who normally promote at Comic-Con who announced they weren't going to do it. So naturally that meant, Godzilla vs. Kong was not really going to be talked about. However, the void, for at least for Godzilla fans, was going to be filled to some degree with Toho kind of doing not a panel, but like a booth, in celebration of Godzilla's 65th anniversary. And we talked about the significance of that. It was the first time that Toho proper was just going to be at San Diego Comic-Con promoting. But now it's come to light that Warner Brothers and Legendary will be promoting Godzilla vs. Kong. So what's changed? Why now? Well, probably, again, and before I go any further this video, let me just point out something I feel should be obvious, but in case it's not. All this is just speculative on my part. This is me just kind of taking the news as it's come in, as it's being filtered through the media and what have you, press releases and whatnot, and kind of just giving my interpretation on it. So I am by no means in the know. Warner Brothers and or Legendary is not calling me up, blowing up my phone, emailing me, what have you, contacting me in any way, shape, or form, giving me any kind of information, so I don't have the inside track. This is me just kind of probably doing what all of you guys are doing, all of you guys who have come across this information, and just kind of speculating and kind of making educated guesses, hopefully educated, based on the what I'm reading. So just want to put that out there. So if you guys are saying, hey, you're wrong, or how do you know, I don't know, and I could be wrong. So just want to put that out there. But with that said, my guess would be my educated guess, as it were, would be that, in light of Godzilla King of the Monsters underperforming at the box office, being one of many films this summer, really just this year, in terms of big tentpole studio films that are underperforming because a lot of people just aren't turning out in droves to the movie theater, to the cinema like they used to, and a lot of people are kind of staying home, it seems, more often. I mean, probably the biggest thing that's being watched this summer is Stranger Things Season 3. And it is a streaming show, meaning people don't have to put on pants, they can stay home and watch. Where it seems like to get people out of their homes to go to the movie theater, it's requiring a lot more effort on the studio's part. We've already talked about this, kind of saying how really, outside of massively established, properties, aka the MCU, really, that's pretty much the only way to really guarantee those kinds of numbers anymore. So because Godzilla vs. Kong is already wrapped filming and it's currently in post-production, it's probably pretty late in post-production, honestly. I'm sure they're almost done on it altogether. They know that they have one more film to go. They can't just, now with a film like Godzilla King of the Monsters, a lot of times if it underperforms, even if they have had plans to make another film afterwards, the studio might, pull the plug or hit the brakes or at least delay production of the next film while they decided, come to a conclusion about whether they should go for it or not. However, Godzilla vs. Kong was already in production, so even if the studio would have normally not have made that film because of the box office numbers of the previous one, there was no way around it. This film is coming out. They're not going to just shelve it. So now they have the task. Like, okay, well, Godzilla King of the Monsters, I mean, it's still in theater. It got an extension in China, so it's running through China through July 30th, I believe. But more than likely, unless, really China, saves the day. I mean, it's doing phenomenal over there, but that's just one market. Granted, it's the biggest market, but it's still one market. Unless it does something extraordinary over there, this film probably, unfortunately, sadly, will not cross the $500 million mark, which is really what it would need to have done to make the studio money. So now the studio is hedging their bets on Godzilla vs. Kong. They need this movie to do for them what they needed Godzilla King of the Monsters to do. So rather than just bow out, they're going to say, okay, if we're going to promote anything at San Diego Comic-Con, we need to do Godzilla vs. Kong. We need to pimp the hell out of this movie because we need this movie to make money. Not just, never mind the future of the MonsterVerse or anything else like that, creatively speaking, to help kind of recoup the costs, not only of the production of Godzilla vs. Kong, but even some of the costs of Godzilla King of the Monsters, because Godzilla King of the Monsters, as it is right now, I think, might have gotten the studio to break even, I think. I'm not positive, I don't have the exact numbers, but I think it may have either have or at least coming close to at least breaking even. But studios don't want to break even, they want to make money. So they need to now approach this film differently. So they can't afford to just let it go. So Godzilla vs. Kong, or Godzilla King of the Monsters, has just pretty much finished up its Western run, and again, I think China's the only place, or one of the few places where it's still running. But as a whole, you know, that film has done what it's going to do in terms of box office numbers. So unless something, again, miraculous happens, you know, it's not going to do much more than it has now. So the studio has kind of accepted, I think, the loss that they're taking there, financially speaking. And now they're shifting their focus to Godzilla vs. Kong. They've got this other movie, it's already shot, it's almost done with post-production, and not only does it have Godzilla, but it also has Kong. You know, it's got another huge, iconic character, and it's got a character that the average filmgoer is infinitely more familiar with than, you know, King Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan. I mean, those characters are iconic to Godzilla fans and kaiju fans as a whole, you know, dare I say more so than even King Kong. But to the average moviegoer, Kong is a more known name than those other guys. And because of that, will probably be a more effective, hopefully, box office draw. Meaning, people who might have necessarily gone, I don't know if I might wait to see Godzilla King of the Monsters when it comes out digitally. Because aside from Godzilla, I don't really know these other guys. I mean, I've heard of Mothra, I guess she's the big bug one, right? You know, those kind of people. But Kong, King Kong, people know who King Kong is. He's an icon in his own right. So, you know, even as a kaiju fan myself, Godzilla fan, King Kong has never really been up there for me. Again, I'd much rather watch a movie with King Ghidorah than King Kong. But like I said before, we represent a vocal minority. And the studios realize that. King Kong, you know, if nothing else, is a great promotional tool for a Godzilla fan, because they, you know, King Kong will draw in people that otherwise would not go to these movies, for better or for worse, whether your take is on that. And the studios know that, so the studios, I think, now are leaning very heavily on the fact that it is these two icons of film, these two classic cinematic titans, clashing together for the first time since 1962. And you better believe they're going to be basing a lot of, if not pretty much all of their promotion on that. It is the rematch of the century. It's, you know, the first time in blah 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 years that these two epic, you know, behemoths have clashed. You know, the two big monstrous stars of the silver screen. You can already kind of see where this is going to go in terms of how they're going to promote, and that's fine. And quite honestly, that is the bright way to promote this film. They need to promote this like they're going to do a heavyweight fight, because it's like, you know, two heavyweight champions just in the ring together. You know, this is like a Rocky fight, basically. It's Rocky and Ivan Drago, although in this version I want Ivan Drago to win. But that's kind of the fight. That's kind of how they need to approach this film. Less on, you know, the spectacle of seeing these classic kaiju on the screen again. Because again, outside of the Godzilla fandom, and again, just by and large the kaiju fandom, the average person didn't really care that it was Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. They didn't really mean anything to them. They weren't as intimately aware, familiar with, or attached to these characters. So to them, it's just big monsters on screen, with Godzilla being the only really stand out. But again, Kong, people know Kong. And this is also a Kong from a recent iteration. Granted, he's going to be different in this film. He's going to be larger, older, and on the previous Kaiju Cataclysm, we've even discussed the possibility that he will be maybe altered in some way, depending on which way they go with the story. Maybe not, but either way, it's going to be a more familiar iteration than older versions. So that's probably the big reason now. They realize, okay, even because as a whole, Warner Brothers, you know, they're fine. The new Wonder Woman is going to do fine, more than likely. I mean, Aquaman made $1 billion, so they're not worried about that. The only property they're producing right now that might be in jeopardy, that needs help, is probably the Godzilla property. So they are like, okay, as a whole, we're not going to be there, but we need to get the promotion for this movie going, because they don't have the luxury of having like a full year like they did with Godzilla King of the Monsters. Godzilla vs. Kong comes out in March of 2020, so they really need to get this going. And if they want this film to do the kind of numbers that they quite frankly needed to do, they need to go kind of overboard with the promotion, which in and of itself is a risk, because again, the higher the promotional budget that you tack onto the production budget, then the more money the film needs to make back. And if Godzilla King of the Monsters was already struggling to make its money back, upping the promotional budget for this film is basically just increasing the price tag of the film, which then increases, what the film needs to do for a film that is already running the risk of not making its money back. They're in a weird spot. So, if nothing else, San Diego Comic-Con is tried and true. It's good real estate. It's a big spectacle. Not just for the attendees there, but everyone online is watching it. So, when more than likely this will be when we get our trailer for the film, like they did the previous year with Godzilla King of the Monsters. They had the panel there, and then they dropped the trailer. That's probably how it's going to be here. So we're going to be getting something. And again, Godzilla King of the Monsters was received very well by the fans. Yes, you had the fanboys who nitpicked, sure, but again, they still went and saw the movie, and they still paid money to do so, so the studio still got their money. Critics loves to hate things. It doesn't matter what it is, that's what they do, so my personal advice to all of you is don't listen to what critics say, because it doesn't matter what it is. They'll just hate on it unless it's, owned by a certain mouse, then suddenly they love to love it. But regardless, as a whole, the fandom, myself, Ashley, and all our friends who are Godzilla fans, love the movie. And it seems as a whole, people tend to really enjoy the film. It did very well in Japan, and a lot of the Japanese fans that I'd spoken to love this movie. So as a whole, it was received well by the fandom. But again, for these kinds of movies, they need more than just the fandom to support them. They need the wider audience, because that's going to be what pays for these movies. Because again, there's not enough of any one fandom to to support these kind of budgets. When a film has a production budget of like 170 million and a promotional budget reportedly of around 60 million, that's a lot of money. And unfortunately, I feel that's a lot of money that we, the fans, can't quite help the studio get back on our own. We need, mom, dad, grandma, little sis, big brother, second cousins, nephews to go see the movies too. And Warner Brothers, Legendary, and Toho know that. So again, Toho, they're already going to have a presence. They're already going to be promoting Godzilla himself just as a legacy character, at their booth, which is great because it's just more Godzilla. And they're also in that panel, they're acknowledging the legendary Godzilla, so they're not excluding it or treating it like something separate. They're saying, yep, he's part of the legacy, he's part of the history, so that's good. They're going to have this 1 hour panel there. They're probably going to be showing a trailer. I would imagine perhaps either the director, Adam Winger, and maybe a star or two from the film might be there. I don't know. But again, just kind of get the hype there. But again, that's going to play to the fan base. And they know the fan base is going to go see this movie. So they're not worried about that. The key here is, how do we get people who did not go to the movie theater to see Godzilla King of the Monsters in theaters to go see Godzilla vs. Kong? And I can almost guarantee you the way they're going to try to do that is by leaning on the fact that this is a Godzilla vs. Kong movie. This is not just Godzilla, one monster you all know, and some other guys you may or may not have heard of. This is Godzilla, who you've definitely heard of, and King Kong, who you've also definitely heard of. So you've got two big stars, in a movie. It's kind of like when The Rock joined the Fast and the Furious franchise, and Vin Diesel was like, the big muscle action guy lead of that, and the only other big guy like that, was making these kinds of movies was The Rock. So now you put him in the movie, and I guess even on set they were making jokes of like Godzilla versus King Kong and that. But again, you had these two big, titans of action cinema of today suddenly together in a movie. So it wasn't just one of them. You had both. And I feel that this is the way Warner Brothers Legendary is going to approach this. It's like, it's not just Godzilla, it's Godzilla and Kong. It's them together, and they're going to push that really, really hard. I'm willing to bet you that this first trailer that we see, whether it's a full-length trailer or just a teaser, is going to be promoting that element of it. Because I think that, if you look at the original first trailer for Godzilla King of Monsters, which is probably one of my favorite all-time trailers, it is a gorgeous trailer, beautifully cut together. But it was more of like an Odyssey trailer. It was more of like the beauty and spectacle that is these classic kaiju, the glory that is they. Which again, if you're a fan already, it is just a celebration of what you love. But if you're not familiar with this stuff, you may look at it and be just drawn in by the beauty of it. Or you might just be like, it looks cool, but I don't know what I'm looking at. But here, it's Godzilla, which we know you know, and Kong, which we also know you know. Well, here they are together. So this may not be as eloquent or, artistically, done of a trailer as the original King of the Monsters one, but it's probably going to go down in history as maybe a more effective one. Because it's going to just kind of give people what they need to lure them out of their homes and go to the actual movie theater. And is to see these two iconic monsters on screen together doing what a lot of people want to see them do. Punch each other for a couple hours. Even though a lot of us fans actually want to see them team up at the end and fight an even bigger bad, which I'm still hoping happens. But again, maybe this trailer will, expand upon that, or maybe give us a glimpse of that. Or again, it might just be very rudimentary and just kind of show, just Godzilla and Kong, and give maybe a few shots of them squaring off, and that's probably going to be it. But it's going to be, that's what the movie's going to be selling itself on, is that fight, that bout, that matchup. So again, I think this is the main reason why we are now seeing kind of this announcement that they are going to be there. And again, we don't know if they had always planned to do this. Just Warner Brothers as a whole was not going to be there promoting at Hall H, but they always had plans of Legendary to kind of promote Godzilla vs. Kong. Or if this is something that's come late in the day because they realize that, yep, Godzilla King of the Monsters, it's going to end up having lost the money, so they need Godzilla vs. Kong to work. They need this movie to be a hit, not just with the fans, but with everyone. So they need to, so in this case, they're making a special instance where, okay, as a whole, we're not going to be there, but we're going to do something special for this particular film because we need this film to do well. And again, if we want the MonsterVerse to continue in any iteration, in any fashion, more than likely it's going to come down to Godzilla versus Kong. And that's to say, even if it goes to the small screen, like Michael Dougherty has suggested that maybe it should, like if it goes streaming, which I've talked about on here before, at the end of the day, I think they still need to see that there is an interest in this mythology and these characters, because at the same time, before a streaming service, ponies up the cash to kind of co-produce something like that, they want to know that their investment is worthwhile. So as a whole, I think Godzilla vs. Kong, regardless of the future of the MonsterVerse, first of all, and this is just assuming it has a future, this could very well be the end, and so be it. But let's just say for the sake of argument, there will be a future beyond this film. Regardless of whether it's on the big screen or on the small screen, this film still needs to do some good numbers. It still needs to make everyone involved money. Even if it's not doing gangbusters, even if it's not, making $1 billion at the box office, it still needs to put the studios in the green. Not just break even. It needs to make money. Someone's pockets need to be lined, with what this movie does at the box office. It's just the way it is. So I really do believe that this is why we are seeing this sudden announcement that, Warner Brothers and Legendary will be doing a 1-hour panel July 19th at 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. I'm assuming that's Pacific time. Because they know they need to, they need, that's it, they gotta get this movie out, they need to bag. This movie is like their candidate. It's like a political candidate, and they are the team behind them. They're on the campaign trail, they are promoting them, so come election, day, or, everyone goes out to the polls and votes for them, that's what they want. They want everyone to go to the movie theater, plop down their money, buy a ticket, or 2 or 3, 4 or 5, 6, 7, and go see this film. That's what they're pushing for. That's what they need. And again, we're living in an age where going to the movies is a dying thing, for better or for worse. But it's just a reality. More people are staying home. And again, films don't even run in theaters as long as they used to. It used to be a film could be 3 or 4 months in a movie theater, so they'd have time to make their money. And something recently I learned too, which I did not realize, it was back in the day when I was growing up, studios pretty much made all their money off ticket sales, and the movie theater or the cinema would kind of make a lot of their money off concessions, where then it kind of, late 90s or early 2000s, things kind of switched over, and then basically studios make, I think, about 90% of the ticket sales, the return within like the first week or two, and then that number starts going down to the point where at the very end, the only people making money off ticket sales for a film is the theater itself. So surprise, surprise, films are not staying in the theater very long, and they're there for about a month and a half, and then studios yank them because by that point they're not making money off of them anymore. It's just the theater chains, and they don't really care. They're in it to win it for themselves. So a lot of people now, because films don't stay that long in theaters, if they're not 100% sold on seeing this film, a lot of times they'll wait for them to be released digitally because they know they don't have to wait half a year or more like they used to once upon a time. Once upon a time, you have to wait almost a year. I mean, Jurassic Park came out in summer of '93, and I didn't get the VHS. I got the VHS when it was brand new in 1994. Later in 1994, it took basically a year for this movie to come out on home release. That's how it used to be. But Jurassic Park was in theaters for months. Now, because back then studios were making money hand over fist from having it on screens that long. Now that's not the case. So they yanked those movies as soon as they really stopped making any kind of substantial money. Boom, those movies are gone off the screen, and that's when a lot of people wait to see these movies now. So there is a general shift to kind of home media now because that's what a lot of people are doing. They're waiting to see these movies on either digital download, digital release, or just waiting for it to pop up on a streaming service anyway. So kind of maybe just skip the middleman at this point and go straight to what people are waiting to see it on, a digital platform of some kind. But yeah, that's that's kind of where we're at now. So the question is, what does this mean? Well, again, like I said, that basically we're going to have to wait and see, but more than likely this is the studios kind of coming together and saying, okay, we need to just promote the hell out of this movie, do everything we can to just push it. But ultimately it's going to come down to hoping for the best, because they pushed the hell out of Godzilla King of the Monsters and it's still underperformed. Now again, the big difference this time around is that it's got Kong. It's got another big recognizable monster in it, and that might make all the difference. That really might make the difference. The other big difference is this time around this film is coming out in March as opposed to May. Now, unfortunately, I believe Mulan is also coming out in March. I might be wrong about that, but I think pretty sure there's at least another Disney property coming out, and that's going back to the other issue too. Is like, Disney kind of owns everything now. It seems like you can't go anywhere anymore without bumping into a Disney-owned property. So again, it's just getting very, very difficult for these films to kind of tap dance around these release dates, trying their hardest to get something out that's not coming out around the same time as another big juggernaut. But again, another push maybe to go streaming, because then you don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, Stranger Things doesn't have to worry about, what Disney property is coming out and when, because it's streaming and people can watch it at their leisure as many times as they want, whenever they want. They don't have to, go to a movie theater and pick and choose when, they can watch an episode of Stranger Things, then go over to, Disney Plus and watch something there, then jump back. It's easy, whereas going to a movie theater, it's more of a definitive choice you have to make in that moment. So hopefully the release date of March might make it different. Again, it's going to it'll still be a less crowded release date than May. Again, a lot of people attribute to this film coming out in May as part of the reason why Godzilla King of the Monsters suffered somewhat, because again, it came, a week after Aladdin and a week before X-Men Dark Phoenix, which I know X-Men Dark Phoenix underperformed as well, but it was still another big known property. So it's not like that Godzilla had a lot of breathing room on the front end or the back end. It was kind of wedged in there, so it really needed a super strong opening weekend, which it was #1, but it was not as strong as they were hoping for. So hopefully March will prove to be a beneficial factor there, help it give it a little bit more breathing room. have there be less options at the box office, and I kind of also like to think that if its biggest competition is Mulan, they would be different enough kinds of movies where someone who's in the mood to watch one isn't necessarily in the mood to watch the other, so they're not really competing with each other as much. Something tells me if you're in the mood to watch two giant monsters throw down, you know, Mulan's probably not going to be, you know, something you really have a desire to see in that moment, and vice versa, by the way. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. So, and ultimately, you know, aside from all the conjecture, the speculation, the business talk about this, all that kind of stuff, you know, if nothing else, it's another cool big monster movie coming out too. So for just the fans, if nothing else, we can at least look forward to some hype for a new monster movie, a new Godzilla film. You know, we don't have to wait years for this one, you know. It's coming right around the corner. So, again, if this ultimately proves to be the end of the MonsterVerse, so be it. You know, we got 4 cool movies. We got to see Godzilla on the big screen with a budget the likes of which we thought we probably never would see. And we got to kind of experience that. We got to kind of, for a moment, experience Godzilla, this thing that's been incredibly niche for most of us outside of Japan, in the mainstream for a little bit, and just kind of feel, you know, a little bit, have a Twilight Zone moment when we're like, what would it be like if this thing that's always been kind of private in ours was out there for everyone? You know, just kind of a cool moment. So if that's all it amounts to at the end of the day, that's what it goes down to history for. That's cool, because we got to at least experience what that would be like. And we've already discussed here that this is not the end of Godzilla. Toho has plans. Again, we don't know the future of the MonsterVerse, if they're going to scrap that, do more American production. We don't know what's going on, but we can all relax knowing that there will be more Godzilla, regardless of what this film does or does not do at the box office. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, just kind of wanted to touch upon that. We don't really know much else about it. Again, it's just going to be, so again, July 19th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pretty sure that is Pacific Standard, you know, Coast time, the West Coast United States. And again, more than likely, probably get a trailer. I'd be shocked if we didn't, because the film is not so far away that we shouldn't have anything from it now. I mean, again, Godzilla King of the Monsters, which was further out when we got the first trailer for that. So we probably almost 99.9% sure we'll get something in terms of like visual representation, a trailer, maybe a new poster, an updated poster. And again, I don't know who's going to be there, but I wouldn't be surprised if the director Adam Wingard there, and maybe a star or two from the film. We'll see. But that's going to do it for this one. Again, kind of a short and sweet one. Like I said, not too much more to talk about. Just the basic announcement that, you know, that they're going to be talking about the movie Godzilla vs. Kong in San Diego Comic-Con 2019, and just kind of speculating on why they will be showing up for this film, Warner Brothers that is, but not any of the other properties. And it's because right now none of their other properties are really taking a hit at the box office. Everything else is doing pretty damn good for itself, so they can just kind of sit on those for a while, whereas this one kind of looks like it might need the help. So I'm glad to see that they are stepping up and not just, you know, sweeping it under the rug or just taking it, counting it out, writing off as a loss, like, whatever, we still got all these other. No, I like that they're still trying, and they're going to try to make this work. So fingers crossed that this one does considerably better, and that, you know, Godzilla and all his facets continue for many years to come. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace!